Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Lisa. I'm spiritual coach Lisa Ha. It is Sunday, January 10th, 2021. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new and you're hearing this through YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and do that too if you're coming back, please. Please hit the like button and share and subscribe. I'd appreciate it so much. Also, for those of you who are newbies, please be sure to check out my website at lisahopp.com. That's lisahopp.com for all about me, all about my services, and all about my upcoming events. And for those of you coming back, thank you so much for all of your positive feedback. Subscribe, share too. I think I said that already. But also, I do appreciate you. I say it every week, but I really do mean it. My clients are probably the best in the world, my support system. So thank you so much. So I'm getting a bit of a late start today. I slept in. And if not actually for the ring of a very special kind of Southern mom in my life, I probably would still be sleeping. But thankfully, she was checking in and woke me out of a sound sleep. Confession number 2. I am not sure what to speak to you guys about today. Normally, I kind of get an idea the day before, the night before, but I am at a bit of a loss. Probably would be very easy to speak about the events here in America this week, but I could hear a big populative no to that. It would probably be very easy to talk to you guys about how to win those combined nearly 1 billion mega lotteries here in America, and I heard a combined yes to that, but is it deep enough? I don't know. So I decided perhaps I could combine both of them and kind of talk in a way that is still spiritual coaching, still is a nice way to wake up on a Sunday morning or start your day, and is not perhaps too shallow, cheesy, and perhaps also isn't too leaning in a way that can be divisive, because I never try to be divisive. So I'm going to pull it off. Taking this really off the cuff. No, nothing prepared. Completely have my coffee next to me. Everything. So let's begin. As all of you who have listened to me before know, that I am a knower, a teacher, a believer in what we put out we get back, and the ability to attract our ideal lives, that we bring to ourselves what our subconscious mind puts out to bring to us. And so in living our lives, it is so very important to try not to feel anger, rage, envy, jealousy, I want to say, of course, racism, but that's something that goes a little bit to, that's embedded. And my sense is a lot of people, if not all people, that are in that emotional, mental, spiritual mindset that they look upon another race as lesser than them. They look upon others in a superior ways that, in a racist, hate-filled, white supremacist kind of way. That's something that is taught to them, and and they also are not aware entirely, most of the time, 100% of the time, that they are. A lot of the time, I think they just they don't realize, they don't think of it in the way that those looking at it think of it or realize it. And maybe I don't want to say 100%, because I think someone who is a grand wizard probably does realize who he is or who she is. But I think most of the time, if you were to call somebody out, they would say, no way, no, I'm not. It's just because of this and that, and I'm right. And they'll find a way to talk around it or to deny it. But it is I feel like an original sin, an original stain of societies. It's still today, so many years later, hundreds, thousands of years perhaps, but at least hundreds back to the birth of our American nation here. It's still prevalent today. It's still there. And it boggles my mind. And I think it boggles the mind of many. And it still is behind a lot of violent actions and beliefs. And it happened again this week. And it's sad. And it's so easily it can make you angry. And I think there are a lot of people this week, in watching the events unfold this past Wednesday, January 6th, had a mix of disbelief and anger, rage, sadness, embarrassment, shame, all of those twirling around. At least a lot of us. Perhaps some of you didn't have all that. Perhaps some of you thought it was okay. There's healing. There's healing that needs to take place. So what can you do when you are seeing these events around you? When you're watching them on TV or they're happening in your town? And let's take it from both sides now. Let's take it from, I get anger or rage over statues coming down or people seemingly getting more than I feel I'm due or I'm getting. They get more than what I'm allowed to have or that's lined up for me. Maybe in the way of benefits or something like that. When do I feel it's unequal or injustice regarding me? Maybe some of you feel that there was a reason to protest. What do you do when you're dealing with those feelings of injustice, anger, on both sides? Well, when you put rage out, when you put anger out, whether it's justified or not, it twirls on back to you. When you put out guilt, it makes its way flow like a boomerang right back to you. So yes, you know what I'm about to say. When you put out love, it will find its way back to you. When you put out peace, it'll find its way back to you. When you put out understanding, it'll find its way back to you. It may not do it that day. It may not do it that week. It may not do it that month. But it always has to do it at some point. It always does. But here's what's important to understand as well. I am not saying in any way that you should not feel the way you feel. You have to feel that too, or it kind of bottles up inside of you. So allow yourself to have that moment of anger, of fear, of injustice. But don't dwell on it. Don't live in it. Don't build a house there and keep adding rooms to it. Because when you do that, your life will always have less. The feeling will always multiply. So you want to multiply it in a better way. You want to multiply it in gratitude of, I do have this, I do have that. I am going to send out unconditional love out to others. Now, I mean unconditional in a way of feelings, thoughts, energy. I'm not saying that you have to just put it aside and act like it's not happening. Yes, we should treat people the way we want to be treated. But we should not be just, physically in action, handing out to people when we know that they will never give it back to us. That's a different thing. I mean in the way of inner feelings, inner thoughts, inner beliefs. That should always be going out to others. So the way, let's say you're on the side of anger about for better use of any other word, protesters, quotes around them. I'm actually doing it, quoting around them. Let's say that you are upset about that and you're upset with them and you have all those feelings that are, inside of anger and embarrassment and sadness. What do you do with it? Well, the thing not to do is to get on Twitter or Facebook and call them names. And you may disagree with me or not believe I'm about to say it, but the thing also to do is not to talk to them about it, because it's too far gone for that. We have to know when someone is open in conversation and when they are closed. But what you can do is to send healing from yourself out to the country and out to the world. You can send them every single face that you see on your screen, on your Twitter, on your Facebook that meant harm. You can send all of them the energy of love, the energy of peace, the energy of understanding. Because you see, it wasn't an instantaneous act. It wasn't an instantaneous moment. When people stormed the castle, things have been building up for a very long time. Feelings of fear of change, insecurity, hate, pain. You can't heal pain through inflicting more pain. You heal pain through the aloe, the disinfectant, the Band-Aid, even, of love. And so there are many this week who are joyously celebrating arrests and by the way, yes, one moment, let me get back to that, but they're joyously celebrating negativity. I know this is not an equal both sides kind of thing, by the way. Calling out, writing names. And what I'm saying is both sides aren't equal in this particular scenario. But the way to bring better times, the way to cure what is happening is from higher consciousness, not from joining people on lower consciousness. That's what I'm saying. However, the same also, excuse me. Yes, consequences always happen for actions, but you should not wish for consequences. You should not celebrate consequences. And I use the word should in a very teaching kind of way, because one of my mentors, Louise Hay, would say, never use the word should, because it's a forced word. It's telling people what they should do. And we have to accept people where they're at and allow their free will to be in play. But in a teaching, in an advisory role, what should you do? Yes. You should understand that it's important to wish for them, this large group of people, to not feel their insecurity, their pain, to not be vulnerable to believing things that would cause them to want to take such extreme actions, but to also understand that there are consequences to actions, and to know that, and to want that too, but not to want it in such a way that you are now coming from a place of lower consciousness. You shouldn't be obsessed with it, the consequences, but you should say, yes, I see that they are there and it is right. What you put out, you get back. And so all of us, 100%, all of us, live from a space of what we put out, we get back. So there are always consequences to everything you think, you feel, and you say. And so in this case, because it's so public, you would see the consequences and know that it is right without egging on, celebrating, putting yourself in that kind of space. That's when you have the risk of attracting that type of energy to you. And honestly, you don't want to attract that kind of energy to you, where now you're in the space of getting consequences that you don't want. I hope that was clear on this early Sunday morning with very little coffee. In a very groggy state. So when you see something happening in the world, whether it be a demonstration, a takeover, or even the very tragic airplane crash in Indonesia, instead of putting anger, fear, rage to it, you send hopes, prayers, love to it. And in an internal way. Because it's so easy for us sometimes when someone asks for thoughts and prayers, and we go, thoughts and prayers. It's important to feel it, to send it, to see the energy flowing out to that space. And if you do it, and there are others doing it, and a large population are doing it, then eventually it can only transform what is going on. It can only transform the group. It can only transform each person to a better place. So that's the best way for us to live. It's the best place for us to come from, is to have that energy. And if you find you can't, Lisa, I can't send them love. I can't send them understanding. I can't hope for that president to succeed. Then you just eliminate the contact, the connection. Turn off the news. Turn off the social media. Step away. If you can't, you can't. It's more powerful, though, to come from a place of love, to come from a place of understanding. People aren't born with hate, with fear. A baby doesn't have fear until the environment gives a baby fear. A baby doesn't hate until it's taught to hate. A baby is all loving, doesn't judge until it's taught to judge. Loves everyone equally. We have to be very careful about what we expose ourselves to, what we give our children when they're born. So what is taught can be retaught, can be reprogrammed. Through the tsunami, the flood of love, it can always be overcome. It can always be changed. It can always be transitioned. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I did. And I hope you stayed with me, because it's very important. It's important for you to know, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, you have the right to feel the way you do. Just know that if you want wealth, love, health, happiness, good relationships, the ideal job, to live your life purpose, to retire, to live a life that every human being deserves, you cannot live in a place of rage, hate, insecurity, or any lower emotion. You will not get what you want. It won't be there for you. It won't turn out okay. It may look like it will, but then it won't. It's just how it is. So just think about it. Okay? Create for yourself what you truly wish to create. And it's so easy to be human. It's so easy to feel those feelings. But when you start to have your moment, do it for the day, and the next day start with that blank slate again, and work on attracting what you'd really love to attract into your life. Now on to, how do you, this is the more shallow part of the broadcast today. How can you win? How can you open your channels up to a big source of prosperity, such as a lottery win, such as Publishers Clearinghouse, such as anything, such as the dream home for HGTV here in America? How can you do it? It's simple, but it's not easy. Is it possible? Absolutely. This is how you do it. And it's a line. And jackpots build up. Not because there's rigging going on, but because it is not easy to do. It's not easy to attract that well. So I want to be clear about something, because I also am intuitive, for those who have checked out my website. And every once in a great while I get this question. It used to trigger me incredibly, but I've grown away from being triggered. And now I try to teach, and the person never wants to learn to ask the question. They think they're being funny when they ask the question. And then when I start to teach, they cut me off and they go, no, it's just being funny. But it's not being funny. So, okay. Every once in a while, someone will ask me, what are my lucky numbers? How do I win the lottery? But they don't really want to know how to win. They just want to make fun of me and the work that I do to help others. And so I try to teach them. This is how you get the numbers. Okay, so here's the first thing. The numbers will line up with you. You don't have to line up with the numbers. Repeating, the numbers will line up with you. So you have to get into a space where you are in receiving mode for the numbers to line up. Billionaires do not play the lottery. If they did, they'd win. They just don't choose to gamble in that particular way. They gamble in other ways. Same with a lot of millionaires. They don't consider that a risk worth taking, so they don't go there. But if they wanted to, they would win, because they're open to prosperity. Their blocks are less. So how does the average hardworking person win? Okay. First off, you have to be okay with winning. If you're playing, but you're thinking in your mind, I hope that no one robs me if I win. I hope I don't lose my friends if I win. I'm going to share it with you, but not share it with you if I win. Or any fear-based stuff. You're not going to win, because you're not aligned with winning. If you're thinking about what you're going to do with your winnings, which I was doing just last night, what I would do with it. If you're thinking about that a lot, even more than a minute, you're not going to win. You can think about it briefly, you can know, and then you drop it, let it go, detach from it. If you're dreaming about how to spend it, if you're overly preparing for its win with, I'll put it in that, I'll do this with it, you're not going to win. Why? Because you're too attached to it. You're too attached to it, meaning it must happen. Which is a force. It resists against it. Yeah. So whenever you see people being interviewed on the news about what they'll do when they win, and they lovingly tell you how they'll share it with their grandchildren or buy their parents a house, they don't have a shot at winning. Because, number one, you can tell by their smile they don't think they're going to win. And they've been thinking about what they do with it. They've put up all kinds of resistance. Because even if you're planning for it, what's going to sneak in is little negative blocks. Such as, I don't want them to know because they'll come and try to get it from me. I need to make sure I'm secure, so I'll have to put it in that. Or, and this is more than one person, so if you're listening to this, don't assume I'm just talking about you. Or you talk about how when you win, you're going to just give it all away. I'm just going to give it out to everybody and serve mankind. Yes, you are a saint. But you're also saying, please don't give it to me so I don't have to give it all away. You're not going to win. Don't win. Don't play. You're not going to win. However, if you can be in a state of wealth, meaning you feel already the wealth of a 500 millionaire, billionaire. You're walking around this planet light as a feather, knowing that you have all the resources you need. You're free. You have any home you want. You can have as many bathrooms as you want. You can help as many people as you want. And playing the lottery is just fun. And you don't even check it. You don't watch for the numbers. You don't take the ticket out as the numbers are going off. You only check when you hear about the place that you bought the ticket from has a winner. And you might even miss that, and you check like once a month. You are in line to win. Because you're in a state of wealth, you expect wealth. You're not tied to it. You're not hoping for it in a desperate way. You're not thinking about the debt you would pay off. You're walking around like you're debt-free. Free. Freedom. Happy. Able to look at a bag and know you could have it if you wanted it. You're in line to win. You live in wealth. You expect wealth. Sometimes I get, and this is a resistor, sometimes I get annoyed because I expect wealth. I don't think it's something I can't have, and I see it flowing into me when I'm in a state of gratitude, security, know I'm taken care of. And so when I play and I don't win a lot more than a trickle here and a trickle there, I go, why? I completely know this is going to happen. But then I smile and I know in my own way I'm resisting. Because I'm waiting for the win. I'm looking for the win. I'm anticipating the win. In order to have the win, you have to feel like a billionaire now. Your mind is very sharp. Your subconscious. You can say, oh, I don't play because I'm okay. I don't need to have it. I'm good as I am. Your subconscious mind knows what the truth is. When you say, I would so easily just give it away and it's not something important to me, your subconscious mind knows what the truth is. When you're talking like you're going to win, your subconscious mind knows that you're not in a place to win. When you say, when I win, and you have an energy to your tone, that's the subconscious mind saying, no, I'm not. You're not going to win. We're not going to win. But I like your words, by the way. Say when. Maybe it can help in the conversion. But don't say if, by the way. Say when. Yes. But you have to feel it too. You have to know it too. You have to be in that state already, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So that's why it's so hard to win. And that's why you see, if you watch like the Lottery Changed My Life shows, that the people who are prospering after winning the lottery are people that already love their lives. A group of coworkers that love being together and either retired together or are still working together. They just played for fun and then they won. It's like, good, now we get to spend time together on our ATVs and our vacation homes, visiting each other, living the good life. And the people that in the moment were able to feel that wealth in a very real way, but couldn't hold it, they lose it all. You have to hold it. Every day, I am what I am. And if for one moment, in a long string, kind of like sticking to a diet, you lose weight when you can stick to the diet, when you can't stick to the diet or the way of eating that promoted your loss, it starts to come back again. It's the same with the lottery. You have to stick to that abundant feeling. And if you can't, then it goes away. The debt comes back again. And so, you have to feel it. It has to be a reality. Now, in some circumstances, your resistors come down when you're rock bottom. I've just lost my job. Everything is done. Everything is rock bottom. Every worry I had is meaningless now. Then you go into a gas station and the clerk says, "Do you want a ticket?" And you go, "Why not? My life is over anyway." And then you win. Why? No resistance. You weren't hoping for it, thinking it was your savior, desperate. You were like, all gone, walls down, in the moment. Can't even think about my future right now. Boom. Millionaire. Billionaire. So that's the second way, but that's also rarer. More rarer than the other way. So those who win the lottery are people who are already in a state of wealth, and the physical has lined up with their feelings and their thoughts and their words. So when they pick up a lottery ticket, they're doing it in a very detached way. It's like, why not? And then they're living their lives, feeling the wealth already. Most of the time, they don't wake up the next day. They don't follow the lottery tickets, and they don't wake up the next day going, "Oh my goodness, I did win." Most of the time, it's like a week later, month later. They're not hiding, getting their financial planner. They don't know yet that they won. Because they're detached enough that they won. So if you're detached, you're not going to be checking it immediately. Little keys, little hints. So if that's in something that you'd like to do, work immediately on those feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. And beliefs too. You deserve it. You know, bad guys win the lottery. People get mad at that, but, they're open. The universe doesn't care if you're good, bad, evil, or not evil. If your energy lines up with $400 million, you're going to get it. And the universe goes, there, you lined up, here you go, enjoy. We wish it were like the good get everything, but it's not how the universe is set up. It runs on vibration. So work on that vibration, and you can have that too. Some amount of it. At least a free ticket. So here I did it. I took 2 big events of the week, and I talked about them in a spiritual coaching kind of way. Hopefully you want to listen next week. Thank you so much again for joining me. I need to start my day, as you have probably started your day. I wish you well today. I wish if you are into football, your team wins. If you're undecorating like me for Christmas, if you celebrate that, I hope for you to have a good day. Thank you again. Please be sure to like, subscribe, share. If YouTube picks me up, you can help me serve others. And also, of course, be sure to go to my website at lisahop.com. Thank you, and have a blessed day.